Good evening, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Bhakti Community. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to our program today, Bhakti On, where we continue our series of 5 principles of receptivity. Today is principle number 4, the appreciating principle. Look again, everything is a gift. With the speaker today, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. We've got around 16 members on Zoom. People are still dialing in. I have Premanishta helping me out in managing social media today. Good evening, Vaish. Welcome back to another episode of Bhakti On.
Oh, thank you so much, JM. It's great to be back here and good to see everybody. And looking forward to meeting anybody who's joining for the first time. Welcome to this program. It's a free room. Feel free to turn on your camera and be yourself if you are in a position to do so. And also during the program, it's perfectly permissible and a good idea to express your ideas, ask questions, and so forth. You just raise your hand or you can put something in the chat box. Well, JM, what do you think? Shall we see if there's anybody on for the first time?
Sure, yes. If you're here for the first time or if you brought in your friend, please go ahead and introduce yourself. We'd love to hear from you. Your word, Toriso.
My name is Toriso. I was born in South Africa. I go to school here at Stanford, and I read the 4 Questions book, and it's brought me here.
Thanks, Teresa, for making my day. It's great to meet you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Welcome, Toriso. Happy to have you today.
Thank you, JM.
All right. My name is Antonio. Joining for the first time. I have been, I'm here in Houston, Texas. I've been going to temple and learn the rudimentary of being a Bhakta, and I'm excited to be here with all of you.
Welcome, Antonio. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Antonio. Anyone here for the first time? Or you brought in your friend? Or you came back after a long time? We'd like to welcome you back as well.
I would like to introduce Toriso. He's from Stanford. He's a Stanford student, and we met him at one of our programs. And he also received books a few weeks ago, like the Bhagavad Gita and the 4 Questions. Toriso, you want to say a few words about yourself?
Actually, he just did a second ago.
Oh, okay.
But
I was
thank you
ready
so
to
much,
say some
Sundar.
more.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah. I'd love to hear more too.
Oh, I'm excited to read more. That's what I'll say.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Toriso.
Thanks, Sundar. Thanks for introducing Toriso as well.
Thank you, Sundar.
Anyone else here? The first time or after a long time or in between? Yeah, go ahead, Dennis.
Hi there. I'm the cheerleader of the group. So I just arrived back from Nova Scotia, which, if you don't know where it is, it's in Canada, out on an island, and we're just north of Boston. So it's where the people are so friendly. People from Nova Scotia talk to everybody. So I'm bringing my cheerleading ability with me. Thank you. And it's good to see everybody. See, I make JM smile, so we know we're happy when he smiles.
Good to see you, Denise.
Yes. Thank you, Janice, for making all of our day bright as your sunflower background. Okay. Yeah, welcome back, Mary Kay. Glad to have you. Anyone else here? No? So maybe we can get started and check in again after a few minutes. Go ahead, Aradhika.
Like to welcome Melissa. I met her at Western Washington University. She had joined one of our sessions maybe like more than a month back, and today she's here again.
What's
Melissa,
your
would you
name?
like to?
Radhika,
Melissa.
who you welcome?
Melissa.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back, Melissa.
It's nice to meet everyone. I'm glad to be here.
You in Bellingham?
Oh, I'm actually in Seattle.
Nice. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Melissa. Thank you. That will be all for now.
We're on our series, Principles of Receptivity. And there are several principles. Today, the principle we're speaking about, I will be speaking about, is the appreciating principle. I like the subtitle that you slipped in there, Jan. Look again, everything is a gift. There's a special feature to the human form. According to the ancient Vedas, it's an apparatus that has the ability to understand causality and also to appreciate that everything comes from one original source, or we could say even a divine source. These are the features of the human body, human mind. It's tuned to understand the purpose of life, to inquire about the purpose of life, and not simply be impelled by the senses or by what we call nowadays instinct to move in a certain direction. One can rise above that. That's why the Vedas say atato brahma jignasa. So it's the first point that I made in the book, Teresa, about the admonition of the ancient wisdom literature called the Brahma Sutra says, now that you're a human, now's the time to inquire, ask big, big questions. Because you can assimilate that information from within and from without. And the philosophical idea behind this is that there is an original divine source that's all attractive. It's not amorphous, it's not impersonal, but it's all beautiful and personal. In fact, there are various features of the Supreme, and they're described as being Brahman, or the effulgence that pervades everything. The sense of the Supreme Spirit, all-pervading Spirit, is there in this idea called Brahman. And then there's Paramatma, or the Supreme Self, the self that gives us intelligence from within our own heart and guides us. And then there's the origin of everything, which is the personality of God, called Krishna. And so, who are we? We're parts of that whole. And what's our business? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about, the appreciating principle. So, if we look at the the disembarkation card, they're not as prevalent nowadays because everything's being done, or most things are being done, just by face recognition. You walk through and put your face in front of the camera and then they recognize you. But it used to be that in most ports of call, before you land, before you come enter the new country, you have to fill out this disembarkation card. And for many years, in flying from one country to another, I always used to ponder, what should I put in the box? What is my occupation? And in reading the Bhagavad Gita, I came to this conclusion that Well, my real duty is as an appreciator. That's the main feature of the soul, is to be an appreciator of the source. And that's what bhakti is, or that's what the state of supreme consciousness is, or yoga, the beatitude of this, the experience of appreciating the beauty, the unlimited, expansive nature, and the sweetness of our source. And so if you tried putting that in the slot that I'm an appreciator, what if that was your main occupation in life? Well, the Vedas say it is. It is your main occupation. Try it out. And that's what bhakti yoga is. Become an appreciator. And with that appreciation, there's a capacity. We have a capacity to expand, and we also can be in a state of contraction that is expressed through our own mental state. And the Bhagavad Gita describes how there are three different conditions we can be in. In fact, when we're in the material world, the Bhagavad Gita says we're conditioned by these three modalities, which you see starting from the left is tamas, or darkness, when we can't see things as they are. And then there's rajas, which is a state of freneticism, where we're always searching for something more. No matter what we get, it's not enough. Sattva is a state of clarity. Now, what is that state of clarity? It is the appreciation that we exist. There's, in the daily course of life, not always an awareness that we even exist. We may go on as if we're human doings, as the old saying goes, instead of human beings. And we may forget that we're experiencing the world. We may just be overwhelmed by whatever circumstance we're in, whatever we're predicting is going to happen in the future, and worrying about the past. And we may forget that we're here right now all the time. So in sattva, which is a cultivation of lifestyle and consciousness, one can come to that state of appreciating everything. And therefore, in sattva, we get this expansive sense of appreciation for every little detail of the world. And what to speak of the fact that we're alive. In fact, the verb to be, if you look at it closely, go back in the etymology, you'll be able to sheet it back to the concept, which is that which remains. When everything else changes, body changes, our relationships change, the geopolitical situations change, everything's constantly changing around us. But we're the element that doesn't change. And nor are we really an element in the sense of physics, where there are elements of this world. We are categorically different from the elements of this world. We're separate from the lower energies called matter, because we're consciousness, and consciousness is a different energy altogether. And it's of the same nature as our source. And so we may notice, we may have noticed, you might note, that there have been times when perhaps you had enough, but you didn't appreciate it. Or you couldn't appreciate anything. That might be tinged by this tamas, the kind of darkness. I don't have an appreciation. I don't like myself. I don't like other people. I feel left out, disappointed. Rajas, there's a hope that I'll find something that I'll appreciate, but whatever I get, I'm forced by Rajas to move on and try to get something more. Somebody gives me $1,000 and I might think, oh, what a cheap person. I know he's a billionaire. Why do you only give me 1,000? Could easily give him $1 million. He wouldn't even notice. But if the person in Rajas gets $1 million by hook or by crook, they're still not satisfied. You could put 1,000 zeros after it, and still there's no satisfaction in rajas. But in sattva, you see in that picture, it's a simple leaf as a gift. It's like, wow, thanks. There's a deep appreciation for the gesture of the gift, for the gift itself, that it's a miraculous part of the world. The little leaves, if you look at them, sometimes they're factories that drink light and convert it into other kinds of usable energy in the tree and for other living entities. So this is a foundational part of the Gita. Now, what's especially important is that one can elevate oneself from tamas to rajas and from rajas to sattva. And this is part of, or this is a foundational part of spiritual practice, is to trend towards sattva. Because, as it's said in Sanskrit, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sattvam Yad Brahma Darshanam. Brahma means spirit. And sattva, from that level of sattva, Yad Brahma Darshanam. Darshanam means to see. You can actually perceive for yourself directly that you're not your body. You're the consciousness within the body. And you can also notice that other people, not just people, but also animals are people too, and other living entities, that you can see that they're not their body. They're the same type of energy as we are, conscious energy, and they're animating the body, but they're not the body. And if somebody asked me, where are you from? And I said, California, they'd say, oh, no, that's not true. You're not from California. Only your body's from California. And this is the vision of sattva that can be cultivated. It's a cultivation to come. So how we eat, whom we associate with, the kinds of work that we do, the things that we read, that we entertain our intellect with, and so forth. These all contribute to our influence by the modes of material nature. And that influences our appreciating capacity. So I won't belabor that point much more because it is, there's a few more slides to go. So spiritual practice could be defined in the context of this presentation as an ever-increasing capacity to appreciate, ever-increasing. And in Rajas, I mentioned already, there's a way in which my appreciating capacity is diminished because whatever I get, the anticipation of getting it is the best part. But after I get it, it's not as good as I thought it would be. And over time, it diminishes and it changes. And in ignorance, we can't appreciate anything. But in spiritual practice, which goes above even sattva, sattva is a material mode. Although it's the most illuminating of all the modes of nature, and it's the point of departure for spiritual practice. Once one comes to sattva, one can freely practice spiritually without being encumbered by material desires that hold us back, like anchors, or ignorance, which is a kind of woeful situation where we just can't get off the mat. We can't get up. It's impossible to move. So from sattva, we can rise above all the three modes of material nature and come to our spiritual nature, which, I'll repeat, is a state in which we have an ever-increasing capacity to appreciate. So that's what we are. We're little appreciators, or big ones. So one of the practices in bhakti is gratitude. And you may have noticed for yourself that when you cultivate gratitude, and I deliberately use that verb, cultivate, it calls you to the present. And sorry for the play on words, but it calls the present to us also, in the sense that everything is a gift. And from gratitude, we can also trace back to our source. and I'll tell you why or how. All gratitude is personal. Here's the idea behind it. Well, first of all, you may notice or remember, at least I'll speak for myself. When I was a kid in kindergarten, I remember my two homeroom teachers, and they taught us how to do finger painting. I think that's the first, or that's what I remember about kindergarten is finger painting. And I remember, because my mother saved a lot of my finger paintings, that every one of them, every sun that I made or every house that I drew with my fingers had a face on it. I couldn't draw a house without putting a face on it, or the sun or the moon. They all had faces. And this is a tendency, natural tendency, because we're persons and we want interaction with other persons. Just flying down to Irvine last Friday from San Francisco. It's just a 1 hour flight. But then when we got close to the airport, they were supposed to descend, thought, okay, it's over now. We're going to get off. And then I noticed we weren't going down, we were going around. And then they announced, oh, there was a flight that stalled on the runway, so we're going to have to circle. And we circled for almost an hour, around and around and around. And I thought, I want to see something on the ground. I want to touch terra firma, see a tree, more people besides the one sitting next to me. And there's this inherent need to see the light and experience variety that makes us stir crazy when we don't have it. And so there's also this pull towards personality. And now I'll say why I feel confident in making the statement that all gratitude is personal. Because to feel gratitude for a benevolent act, just in saying that, there has to be intention. Intention is a personal trait. It comes from personhood, not from impersonality, and not from a mistake either. If someone's walking out of Whole Foods and drops $100 on the ground accidentally, and then you run over and pick it up, you can't feel gratitude. You may feel guilty, but you won't feel any gratitude for the person because they didn't intend to give it to you. On the other hand, if somebody gives you a gift, unexpected gift, and they thought it up, it was very thoughtfully done, then you'll think about it. Wow, that person intended to give me. They went out of their way to do that for me. We perceive intention. In fact, it's one of the main things that we do as conscious entities, to put it in a kind of abstract way. As people, we're always trying to judge people's intention. In fact, the whole legal system is about figuring out if somebody meant to do it or they did it by accident. That determines the severity of the punishment. It was a complete accident, and they weren't neglectful in following safety rules. Then there's a way that practically you're not culpable at all because it was an accident, and you also weren't neglectful and left something out that made somebody trip. If you intended to hurt somebody or steal from them, then it's a very severe punishment. So, okay, when we perceive that we're being tended to, for instance, we get intelligence. Where does it come from? We may endeavor to understand something and not be able to understand it on Monday, but then we can understand it on Thursday. Where did that come from? We also eat food and it gets digested and it distributed to all the exact right places in our bodies if we're healthy. How's that happening? There's an order to the universe, and there are abundant gifts for those who can see them. And when we perceive that, we can trace it back to intentionality. or I should say, if we can, if we do trace it back to intentionality, that means somebody had an intention to set things up in such a way that we were provided for. And that's why it's personal. Of course, we can ignore personality, but that is the problem here in this world. Ignorance means ignorance. When we ignore our source and when we ignore the gifts that we're getting, then there's a pall of darkness that comes into our consciousness. And that's the darkness of this world, is ignorance or ignorance of our source, who's benevolent and intentionally for us and helping us in unlimited ways. That's my diatribe on how gratitude is all personal. I'm going to stop at this particular time and let's see if you have any responses. Uh-oh, Teresa's got to leave at 6. Would you like to make any comment before you go? Because you're well read at this point and you're also apparently taking notes and attentive. You want to say anything before you
Oh,
off?
I have nothing to say. I was collecting my thoughts, but I will.
Okay. I really appreciate you're here. Thank you, Teresa.
No problem.
JM, we have a comment in the chat.
Yes. Shamal says, happy to join the class after a while. Unfortunately, my work schedule is keeping me away. He just wanted to reflect on biometrics used while immigration check-in. In Vedic principle, consciousness is probably used for checking in Vaikuntha Loka. In my lifetime, I've seen how the human world evolved in the immigration process from manual ID check to present biometric method. The way human is trying to learn natural language, if it was directed in right path with Vedic enlightenedness, the biometric could probably be replaced by spiritually conscious images of mind. If we spare a deeper look into the resource mapping demography, law and order of present global geography, we can probably assume that the consciousness or knowledge base or mode of ignorance varies with the developed to less developed countries. Only difference is the diffusion of spirituality and noble consciousness.
Yeah, we need some high-tech machine so we can stand in front of it and can tell our intention. That'd be scary. Radha Kripa. We can read lips, but
yeah, better, but still not there yet.
I'm sorry. I just requesting if you could expand a little bit on cultivating the gratitude, because I felt maybe the gratitude is more inherent to us and we are not using it maybe, but if it is a practice, I would like to get a little more from your side, if you could.
Okay. That means I'm going to move on in the slide deck.
Okay, sorry about that.
Gratitude is a most rare and valuable substance. I'm going to tell my story about Chandi Chowk. It's the most congested part of Delhi. Everything's going on all at once in that part of New Delhi, India. And I used to go over there every time I was in New Delhi to collect some scented oils that I used on a regular basis for something. And did Gulab Singh was his name. Hope he's still alive. The rarest oils in the world, and people would come from other countries to buy from him. And I saw somebody buy some oils there, just a small amount. It was in the order of around $10,000 for a small amount because the oil was so rare. But I was thinking later about gratitude and what a substance it is. That if I went to Gulab Singh's and I asked him, how much for a little bottle of gratitude? Just give me one drop. He would say, sorry, you got to get that yourself. We don't have that here. it's invaluable to be able to have that. Imagine if you could take a drop and then you saw the world in a different way through the eyes of gratitude. Sakala Subhag has his hand up.
Hare Krishna. I want to share a reflection about the appreciating principle. So I used to regularly go to a quiet place near my home to spend some time with meditation. So whenever I think that I don't have access to this place and maybe in future, I started appreciating this place a lot, that maybe in future I don't have access to this place, but now I have it. So let me appreciate it more. I just want to share that.
Yeah, but that is definitely, and it's something coming up too. I think I've noted it further along, and it was a remark made by a comedian that I thought was very witty. And he said, I heard you don't know what you've got till it's gone. So I gave away everything that I had so I could appreciate it. JM, I hope you'll note that Kurt Peterson has appeared.
Yes. Good, go ahead.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Kurt.
I'm on the street. I'm in Montana right now. It's a beautiful day out. I was thinking about the whole gratitude thing. It really never ends. And so it's kind of a joke that it's a joke, but it's serious. Like, what do you say to people who say that gratitude is really just like toxic happiness in disguise? I mean, it's almost like if you're constantly around people who are always positive, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't really embody, I feel like, the full human experience. And I'm saying this because, do you know the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer?
Mm-hmm.
So you know about his like philosophy of pessimism, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think, his essays, he didn't get famous till later, I guess. But like his essays were almost like a well reprieve from the constant expectation that people would be cooperating in nationalism at the time. Like everybody was just trumped up on nationalism, like hell yeah, let's do it, and but nobody had a break from it. I feel like gratitude is that one thing they were always trying to catch up to, and that in itself is like a struggle. So it's like, I feel like there's more almost a philosophy of just being, I guess. I don't know. Gratitude is an action, and I don't want to say it's overrated, but yeah, those are my thoughts. What do you have to say to all that?
Ultimately, it's not an intellectual exercise. Intellectual exercises are not held, I mean, they're not the essence of spiritual practice. As Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam, that the perfection of spiritual practice is that which you experience directly. And intellectualizing something is different from feeling it directly. The reason I mentioned practicing gratitude, it's more in the sense of, for instance, if in the old days your car stalled, somebody could get out and push it, and then you could, as they used to say, pop the clutch, and then it would start again. By the way, you can't do that anymore. I was in a Tesla going to a program the other day, and the car stopped. All the electricity went off. We were stuck right in the middle of the road, and somebody said, "Can we push it? Can we help you push it?" I wasn't driving, but people near the bus stop said, "We'll help push you." And I asked the driver, because I don't know anything about Teslas, and he said, "No, you can't push it. It won't start that way." In any case, the idea of practicing gratitude is more like pushing the car. It's a natural emanation from the fact that we exist. And you alluded to that just now, that the sense of I exist brings that overwhelming sense of satisfaction. And within the satisfaction, there's gratitude because I have enough. And I feel that and I'm sorry to use these words that are associated with unlimited cliches from self-help books, but it's the one that comes to me. And I'm trying to expose that express that it's not just glib, but there's a sense of abundance when we know that we exist and that we've always existed and we exist now, in the past, and in the future, we'll always exist. And when one has that direct experience of one's own nature, as is expressed in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a passage which I should actually just read. pull it up from my bookshelf. This is in the section, Kurt, of the Bhagavad Gita, which you may be familiar with already, of meditation. This is called dhyana yoga. Dhyan comes from the word dhi in Sanskrit, which means when one's mind is fixed beyond the churnings of the mind, so one can actually perceive one's own consciousness. And here's the description of the feeling that one has when one experiences one's own consciousness, and the source of it also. That comes simultaneously. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulties. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. And the state of gratitude is included in that because one has a sense of being part of something greater than oneself that is overwhelmingly beautiful. Like in the ancient system of Indian drama, there's this way of describing how one can come to this point of transcendence or feeling it by entering within the aspects of the drama and suspending one's sense of being an embodied person. One rises beyond that. And in that state, one experiences a sense of transcendence. So it's not just the utterance of, oh, I'm grateful for this or grateful for that, but it's more seeing the connection of everything and how we're part of it. I mean, it's somewhat natural. I was recently in a redwood forest near San Francisco, and I was observing many of the tourists who were walking through, and I could I could see in their countenances and the way they reacted just to the natural scenes there that they were spontaneously amazed, and there was a sense of gratitude just for life itself, just for the state of things. So I think there is a case, you've made a case that there's a kind of a overly sweet idea, a sickeningly sweet thing of I'm just grateful for everything. When it's artificial, then it can and it's contrived, it won't last. And then there's also uh, the disappointment that might come later. But in true spiritual realization, there's a foundational sense of gratitude that's categorically different. That's the point. Kurt, what do you have to say?
Well, that's, very beautiful. It's a message I feel like we have all heard from the beginning of our lives, that this eternal thing, if we can somehow bond with it, will be set forever, I mean, it's just like every religion is kind of like that, There's even these people in like southern Russia, I guess the Chechnya area, and they run around a pillar to get closer to God. They run like in a circle and like in a group and they chant just to get some closer to God. You know, I even I try to do. I almost finished it, but I got so busy. A 30-day like mini Vipassana meditation course, and I've been meditating for years every day for 10 to 15 minutes, and it's healthy. But anything beyond that, I still haven't mastered. So I feel like even reaching that state that you're talking about requires this beyond ability to focus, you know, that I don't know, so far for me, let's say I don't know, I don't feel pushed to develop that level. But it sounds nice that I guess it exists somewhere and it does have that value that's being presented, you know?
One of the tenets of Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita is that there are various paths through which one might rise to that level of consciousness. Of course, Dhyan Yoga is one, and it's extremely well known, the idea of meditation and stilling the mind. Doing it is another thing. In fact, it's not the main path that Krishna recommends in the Bhagavad Gita. One of the paths that he recommends, especially, is changing the intention of one's work, the intention for which one is working. And this is another kind of yoga that when you're working, if you change the reason that you're working from you're doing it for yourself to you're doing it for service, then there's a natural way in which one may also experience that sense of transcendence. That's also, there are various ways that are natural to us, that things that we're already doing, where we don't have to retreat from the world to experience. In fact, we can be more engaged in the world, but in an enlightened way. That's one of the messages that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita.
Well, I love that. You know, it's like better to perform your own duty in a good way than somebody else's. You
Yeah.
know?
And that's palpable. In other words, just changing your attention for the way you're working, you can experience it for yourself.
The whole intention thing. I mean, you know, I grew up like with like, super Christian, and I was on the Saints for my high school team, super small school, and we'd all be in the huddle. We stick your hands in the huddle. We go Jesus, you know. It's like for Jesus. I don't know. It's just kind of almost like it's a joke almost because it's I can't reach. There's no way to prove it. You know, it's as spiritual as I can get out of it. There's still no real physical proof that this is like undeniably real. My brain can't make that abstract leap. You know.
Yeah, well,
So
there has to be certain things in this world that prove themselves. And one of the things that proves itself is that we exist. So if you deny that you exist, that's an act of consciousness. Denial is a conscious act. So consciousness can't be denied. I mean, you can try to deny it, but that just brings up the fact that we exist. So starting from more foundational points of finding self-revealing phenomena in this world. And that's where the Bhagavad Gita starts with, that experience your own consciousness and notice that it pervades your body, and notice that you're not your body also. Those are all things that we're capable of doing, especially in the right environment. But I relate with what you're saying, that there's a lot of superficiality, and this is something that the teachers of Bhakti Yoga speak about as niyamagraha. It means don't practice just for the sake of practicing, but practice to actually have the direct experience. And also don't give up the practice. It has two parts to it.
you know, I was reading about. Do you know Adi Ashanti?
Is that a person?
Yeah, he's a Buddhist practitioner. He retired. He like it's just kind of ironic when you know in the practice and the engagement of bhakti or in the engagement of any spiritual duty, you end up getting harmed or something like that. And this guy Adi Ashanti is famous. You can look him up. But one of the reasons why he retired is because he tore some ligament in his leg or something like that from just meditating too long. So I don't know.
Well, that's not recommended in Bhakti Yoga. In
Definitely
fact,
not
in the
recommended.
Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yukta hara viharasya, yukta chestasya karmasu, yukta swapna babodasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. He says, be balanced in what you do, how you eat, how you sleep, and so forth. There can be this way in which one in a sense of exuberance, pushes oneself past capacity of what the body or mind can do. And then there can be a whiplash effect. In fact, this is something in the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of the ancient literatures on bhakti yoga. Krishna mentions that a person should be like an expert horse rider. I was going to say horseman, but I don't know if that's proper. And then he said, sometimes you let the reins out, sometimes you bring the reins back in, and you learn how to live in the body and still engage the senses for a higher purpose. Okay, now, JM, let's do a few more. Kurt, I thought that was a lot of fun because you went from being a pedestrian to what do
I
you call one riding a bike? I can't.
a cyclist, I guess.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, be careful.
Yeah, I'm going to dance class right now. It's gonna be a good time.
Okay.
All right.
Good to talk to you. Great to see you.
Great to see you as well.
Thanks. Denise?
Oh, I was just going to comment on the Sattvic, Rajas, and Tamas.
Mm.
So it seems like the Tamasic needs to speed up a little bit to become Rajasic, but the Rajasic people need to not have as many things going on in their life and slow down. So I was thinking that was more like what's going on nowadays. We have a term for it, a fear of missing out. So everybody does so many things that they're in such a turmoil, especially women with children, carting them around and trying to make meals and get their kids fed and get all the soccer games going and all the activities going. And then if everybody could slow down a little bit, they could be more appreciative and think slower and be more sattvic. So I just wanted to bring in that fear of missing out in the FOMA, they call it.
Yeah, nice point. It is sort of a busy world these days.
Half of Silicon Valley, but my parents, I treat children. So the parents say that they're in the car 8 hours a day, getting their kids to all the schools they need to for special help and getting them to the activities for tutoring and learning and everything. I said, wow, you just run a taxi service. They say basically they're in the car 8 hours a day delivering kids to various activities.
Well, I find it one of the best places to think in the car.
In the Tesla that stalls.
Oh yeah, and the Tesla installed.
Uh-huh.
Well, can always listen to stuff in the car. That's always nice too. Plus, if you're driving, you don't necessarily have to talk to anybody. Yes, no, it's a symptom of the modern age that things move really fast, and there are environments that are more sattvic. It's, for instance, the forest, the country, and therefore ashrams oftentimes are in idyllic areas. But of course, with bhakti yoga, one can live and engage in even in the busiest of places, because again, engaging one's intention for service you can be in the eye of the storm. Whereas Krishna puts it in the Bhagavad Gita, you're like a lotus that's never touched by water, even though we're in the midst of all this. So it's one of the special features of bhakti. Thank you, Denise. Really nice points as usual. Jam, I'm going to do a few more slides. Whatever you appreciate appreciates. It means it grows in value. And there's a nemesis to gratitude, which is entitlement, the sense of that I deserve certain types of things. If one has this awareness that whatever we're getting is a gift, and we have appreciation for even the simplest things, and then there's a natural sense of gratitude. Entitlement, in other words, cancels out gratitude. And it also blocks appreciation because, well, not because, but you might notice that if somebody's spoiled, if somebody spoils a child, for instance, it's really hard for them to appreciate what other people might appreciate very deeply, even the simplest of things. So expectation is the mother of disappointment. And when you don't expect anything, you feel grateful for everything. So here are a few points that are directly connected to the Srimad Bhagavatam in the sense of seeing the world in a different light. Put it in this way, the world is a miracle. When the mind becomes bored, there's a sense that I'm just doing the same old thing every day, everything's the same, no stimulation from the world satisfies us. And the antidote to that is a word called vishesha, which is an understanding of the uniqueness of the world. In the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadev, who's teaching his student Parikshit, points out the uniqueness of the world. Seeing how the ways of the world and the way the universe is moving, he points out trees and rivers and says, look at their design. Look at the benevolence of a tree that offers fruits unlimitedly to all kinds of living entities and so forth. And notice that the sun is miraculous. What is it? It's a body of unlimited energy that's supplying life to everybody. So one of the points of the teachings of Shukadeva is there's not one particle in the universe that's the same as another. Everything's unique, every situation's unique. And when we're able to perceive that, there's a sense of exhilaration in observing the workings of the world. And skipping down to the practice of gratitude, that it's a discipline. The word discipline comes from a Latin root, which means to be a learner. When you have that sense of wonderment, you can bring your mind to gratitude and live in gratitude. It's not a feeling, it's a practice, but the practice leads to the feeling. And as the next slide points out, that the sense of disappointment looks backwards, anxiety looks ahead, and gratitude is there right in the moment. So Shukadev is pointing out that everything in the world is miraculous. Try to see the miracles. And there's also the point, the way we interact with other people, that our gratitude and appreciation for others is a determinant of the quality of our relationship with them. So bhakti yoga could say is a cultivation of that gratitude, and it leads to the expansion of our appreciating capacity, which then gives us a completely different worldview, which is that everything that happens to us is a personal loving gift, a PLG. I made that up. PLG, personal loving gift, but it's an abstract or a summarization of the idea that's there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that whatever comes to us, whatever happens, even adversity, is meant for our ultimate benefit. And so if we're able to perceive that, then we're really connected with the purpose of the universe. And as I've already mentioned, all gratitude is personal. It comes from the Sanskrit word granati, that's where the word derives from, which means to sing, praise, or announce. Those in gratitude or who have expanded their appreciation capacity engage in what's called kirtan, which is to announce, sing, or praise the beauty of the world, but most importantly, the source of all of it. And if you want to test it out, just try expressing your gratitude and you can watch that your relationships grow. And you notice that when you give gratitude, even for the smallest things that you get, they'll grow in meaning. So fighting against the force of entitlement is not so difficult. And one of the very inspiring sections of the Upanishads in the Sri Upanishad gives this point about noticing how every living being is amazing. And it's also there in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, every soul is amazing. We can overlook that fact. I mean, what is the soul that animates the body anyway? I was on a walk when we were in Florida. We went for a morning walk for chanting. And as the sun was coming up, I was walking under this tree and I saw the flowers coming out of the tree. Very beautiful red flowers and big tree. And I was thinking, I had this almost communion with the tree that, wow, here's a living being and it's expressing itself by putting out these flowers. The tree is amazing. And then there's birds out there that are amazing also. But it's the light of consciousness of the soul that's there, and also the supreme soul that's behind everything and everyone, that's the source of wonderment. And the Sri Upanishad says, Sarva Bhutani, see all living beings in that light as amazing. So to cultivate gratitude, remember, no one person in this world is exactly the same as another. Every conscious being is endlessly fascinating. What people have done for you and what they are doing for you right now, forget what you've done for them. Don't take your friends, family, and associates for granted. Appreciate them. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. And so we have time for a couple reflections or questions. I'll keep the answers brief, or you can just mention anything that stuck with you.
Please feel free to unmute and share your reflection or questions, or you can type in the chat
Either
box.
that, or just feel free to sit in silence and feel gratitude.
Go ahead, Prime Minister.
I just love this topic today, and I was just thinking that when we are not in gratitude and like in disappointment or complaining mood, it's just so heavy, and you go down the spiral. But as soon as you shift your attitude from disappointment to gratitude, all of a sudden it's just so much burden is taken off, and you feel light, and um, that natural happiness comes from it. So I just love this topic today. Thank you so much. And the slides were so beautiful.
Thanks, Prem Manishna, and thanks to JM for the slides. He worked on them. Lee J.
Hare Krishna. My Shishita Prabhu, thanks so much for this wonderful class. I was reflecting on what you said about building personal relationship with every living entity. I recently watched a documentary about a British director who documented how a bee lives in his backyard. So this project was captured during the pandemic. He usually travels around the world to shoot different videos for wild animals. But because of COVID, he was stuck in his backyard. And then he changed his perspective to see the small bees in his backyard. And he talked about he followed this specific bee. And eventually, after 2 months shooting, he almost feel like this specific bee is his friend. So I was thinking of what you said about everything is personal and you see everything every living entity is Krishna, even from his lens of this specific bee. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. Definitely everything is a living entity that we can build personal relationship with.
Thank you so much, Lee J. That was amazing. Jason.
Hello. On the topic of gratitude, I just want to say thank you for holding this space and hosting these Zoom sessions. It can be viewed as something small, but everyone here knows that it is a big deal. So I wanted to say thank you.
Wow, just Jason, you saying that, it was a kind of a visceral reaction. It's amazing. As you say, whatever you appreciate appreciates, and I could feel it just from that utterance that you made just now. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Jason. Denise, for the close.
Oh, I was just going to tell you about an experience I had in a restaurant about how important it is for people to talk to each other. We were in a Filipino restaurant and my husband and I didn't know the food. So we noticed this other two friends, they were sitting there and they had all these foods. So we asked them, could you help us, select some dishes and what's really nice and everything. And we talked to them. And then at the end, when we went to go pay for our meal, the waiter told us that they had paid for our meal because it was the first time that somebody had actually talked to them.
Wow.
And then we had overheard the other couple on our right. They were just trying to pick out dishes they could afford because they were so poor, but they wanted to eat out. And so then we went to the desk and we paid for their meal. And so it was, and then they absolutely never found out. But today I went to Whole Foods and I've been in Canada and it's so much more friendly in Canada. And
Oh, yeah.
I just really noticed, like the person grunted and groaned at me at Whole Foods checking me out.
Aw.
Whereas like if I'm
Well, we love you here, Denise. And I'm half Canadian, don't forget it.
I know that's
When
why
I went and got my Nexus card, I had to go to Niagara Falls because there's the Canada and the American side. It's only 2 miles away. And you go through that whole process, they check into your whole background and everything. And I couldn't, the contrast between the American officials and the Canadians was definitely
it's
noticeable. That's
amazing.
all I'm going to say.
But
Thank
yeah, I talked about it all the way home. Like I said to my husband, like I could go to the drugstore in the town I live in Canada, and I walk out, I'm being treated like gold. And here, you go to the store and they grunt and groan at you. I just think it's so important that we talk to each other and just be kind to each other. And I think that is, I don't know, that's my little message for today. So
I
I'm
think
so
that's
glad.
on the license plate in Canada, just what you said.
What's that? Which one?
We should all be kind and nice to each other.
That's right. That's right. But I just appreciate, like, I was really excited to come back and be in the group because it airs at 9:30 at night, and I'm a yogi. I go to bed at 8:30, so I missed it for 5 weeks. So I'm glad to
Mm.
be back with everybody and make JM smile. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it is. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's all his hard work.
Well, speaking of uh, expressions of gratitude, the yogis who live high in the Himalayas have this effusive way of expressing their gratitude to one another. When they see each other on the high peaks of the Himalayas, before they go back in their caves, they have a ritual where they put their arms high in the air, and it opens their heart and lets all the gratitude come out. And they call out this phrase, Hari Bol, which is a kind of glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they like it so much, they do it all the time. And it's kind of a universal password. You can try it anywhere you go. Just tell people, Hari Bol, and people just open their door to you. They'll let you in for free. But if you put your hands in the air and say it, then it goes all over the universe. So let's try it. 1, 2, 3. Haribo!
Haribol, Haribol.
Thanks, everybody. And thanks all of you in the ashram there in Los Angeles. Good to see you. It's your Troy Gopinath and all the devotees. And good to see everybody. I'm going over to Europe for just a few days, and I'll be back ASAP. Look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank
Thank
you.
Bye, Bo.
Safe travels.
Safe travels. Bye.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.